lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines and, most importantly, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight. What do I mean by that? I mean, I only speak to transportation professionals on this show, as well as my twice-a-week long-form podcast, so we can put the right information out there from the people who have done what you're trying to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can apply, utilize, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. It's one of the many reasons why I proudly fly this American flag behind me every single day. A, we're the greatest nation on earth, but B, I'm living my American dream, and I want to help each and every one of you live yours as well. Let's see here. I got a guest on. I'm gonna bring him up here in a second. He's just about to sip his stuff, and you guys know how the show goes here. And we're just going to talk about fraud prevention, protecting every facet of the industry when it comes to the brokers, and most importantly, the carriers who are actually doing the work out there and making sure that they're, going to get paid for the work that they do, instead of everybody throwing their hands up in the air and being like, oh, we have a double brokering problem. But there's nothing that's ever done about it. But we're going to do that. We're going to jump in. We're going to talk about we might get to the port stuff going on and what everything's going on out in Long Beach and everything. But before we do anything, as always, you guys, I got to give a shout out to my friends over at VHub, vhubapp.com. Whether you're a broker, carrier, or a shipper, we all need access to trailers at some point in time. And the best part about with what VHub has, you get paid to move these trailers, you guys. That's right. That's on top of the revenue that you can get by loading these trailers out. So what they're working on, they got a bunch of trailers out in Stoughton, Wisconsin, needing to get over to Milton, Ontario, and you get paid $350 US to move each of those trailers, you guys. And this is another great opportunity for you to sell an enterprise solution to those larger shippers who need drop trailers, whether it's an overnight drop or a multi-day drop. You can now offer this, you guys. They also have Chattanooga, Tennessee, going over to Clinton, Oklahoma. There's some drive-ins out there, you guys. You get paid $600 US to move those. They got a bunch of trailers out in San Diego, though, you guys, going to all areas of the country. They got Chicago, Georgia, Arkansas, Indiana, Memphis, Tennessee, Dallas, Houston, Charlotte, Atlanta, Minneapolis, you name it. And they all range between $1,100 and $2,200 per trailer to move, you guys. That's real. Those are real numbers. And then they also have Paragould, Arkansas, going to Mississauga, Ontario, and you get $736 US to move that. So hit them up, you guys, vhubapp.com. My friends Stacey Steen and Zach Lonergan, they will be in the audience. Just do me a favor. Let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. Jackknife TV, he's watching over on YouTube. What is up? Thanks for joining in. Christine Stewart, good morning. Sunny Sharma, good fucking morning. Orange Shirt Gang, let's have a great day. Tracy St. Clair, she's watching over on YouTube as well. Dylan Turner's over on YouTube. And yeah, this is... from what I've heard from multiple people is that once they jumped over to YouTube and hit up the Freight Coach channel over there, they said that the stream, the audio and the video quality was exponentially better than over on LinkedIn, you guys. So if you're going to go over to YouTube, hit it up, the Freight Coach. Robert, what is up, sir? Good morning. It's all about training. I know, telling folks 10 years, talked a couple of times. Rick Wooten, good morning. And let me see here, Jackknife, don't be too lenient on these carriers. Some of them just make bad choices. There's overcapacity on the carrier side and on the broker side, and everybody's fighting to give the bottom dollar price to win customers. I don't disagree with that at all. John Tate Reed, good morning, everyone. All right, I got my man up here. We're both rocking the broker carrier shirt. You guys know my business partner, Kyle. He's been on the show a bunch of times. He's the brains behind literally everything that we're building up. So, dude, what's up, man? How's everything going?
Good morning, Chris. Everything's going great. Everything's going great. We just put out the new version of our onboarding platform last week. We've got a marvelous amount of onboarding transactions have already gone through that. We're learning a lot. We're doing some great things. We're just rocking and rolling, man.
Dude, we really are. I'm super pumped for this. I am very excited to really get this out there, because this is, in my opinion, from a capacity management platform, which, this helps because I preach about in-network utilization, right? Like the amount of, is there another load board that's out there? Where do I find this capacity and everything? And I think that in today's day and age, you go through everything to get these companies set up with you. They're activated. They're sitting there. That's where all this dark capacity is that everybody wants access to, but nobody's internally compiling their own data to see where is this stuff at. And for me, it was so imperative to do that and then make it smarter, right? Like make it to where our users can reuse and just be more efficient with their time, right? They already did the work. They already set these guys up. They've already done the loads for them. Why aren't we reusing them time and time again?
Yeah, and that's a big part of why we designed the platform the way we did, is to really get brokers thinking about reutilization as their key method to avoid scammers, to avoid trouble, and to maximize their carrier capacity, right? If you reuse your good carriers and avoid onboarding too many new ones, that is a built-in mechanism to protect you from scammers, right? Because your point of vulnerability where you're going to get scammed by a double broker or an identity thief or just a plain bad carrier is at that first contact, at that onboarding transaction. It's someone you don't know, that you have to vet, that you have to make a judgment call about and take the risk of doing business with them, right? But if you're talking about a carrier where this is the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 20th time that they've hauled for you and they do a great job every time and you know them personally, well, then none of these issues exist, right? So the elimination of the tedious workflows and the enforcement of reutilizing your good carriers is the meat and potatoes of the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, dude, that's literally what I do inside of my own brokerage, right? That's what I've done for the majority of my career is it's in-network utilization. It's bringing that additional capacity to the market because I even see it right now it's like if I posted up a load, again, you guys, these are all arbitrary numbers, arbitrary lanes, but the example is very real is it's like if I'm out there in certain freight markets right now where the seasonal freight, Nogales, Arizona, for example, the seasonal freight is pumping out of there and rates have increased 20-30% over the last, couple weeks alone, 4 weeks alone. And they've sustained there. Those regular carriers that you're working with are still doing it for some of the rates that they were a couple months ago because they understand the longevity, the long game here that comes along with it. Not everybody, but the majority of them are. And I found that for me to really bring these down, it's always bringing that opportunity to my carriers that have done the loads first, whether it's a notification through a broker carrier or a phone call or a text message or whatever that looks like. It's bringing that freight to them before you would even go out and look in any other direction. And because you're working it from a perspective of how do I get the same carriers to show up time and time again? Because the shippers notice, right? No matter what anybody says, the shippers notice when the same drivers show up time and time again. They notice when you're going to them, right? Because they know that they're not seeing it going to anybody else. And again, I want that. And those relationships exist. I have those relationships currently. And for me, it's like, how do we amplify our outreach though? Because it's like, if I'm moving 20, 30 loads a day and I want to run lean or whatever that's out there, dude, through technology right now, man, you can reach so many more consistent carriers than I could when I first started off, and I'm fucking using a spreadsheet or sending out a bunch of text messages to all my drivers on multiple different lanes. And now it's like, boom, one click, get them notified and get them on that freight and get them pre-booked out so they can plan better.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting, as we've now sent out about 2.5 million load announcements through our platform altogether, and a lot of our customers kind of have developed this predictive sense. When they post a load on a certain lane at a certain rate, they kind of know who's going to respond first. And it's watching those relationships develop first on our platform and then move out into the real world has been really satisfying. It's a really amazing thing to see because that was the point of it all from the very beginning. And speaking to your point, the Nogales market, for example, when the seasonality picks up and now the rates are significantly higher than they were before, that's exactly the time to really invest into your existing carrier relationships with your guys that do a good job for you. Incentivize them to keep wanting to haul freight for you, because they are actually protecting you from fraud and from scammers simply by continuing to haul freight for you. And I'll explain that thought a little bit more. When you have a market where the rates are going up, a localized market like Southern Arizona, there, word about that gets around to the scammers, right? Because they move, they're like roving locusts. They find the markets where the rates are hot and the rates are going up, because that gives them a bigger margin to play with when they post their fake rates to lure in real carriers and rip them off, right? So you're going to have a flood of scammers moving into your hot localized market. And that's when you need to really double down on only doing repeat business with the people you know, and incentivize them to want to keep going with you. Even raise your rates a little bit. You can even just talk and just explain the situation. If scammers are getting out of control in this market, we're going to pay you a little bit more if you make sure you're always available to us, right? And we've had people anecdotally tell us that works extremely well also.
Yeah. Lena Glass, good morning, everyone. Steve Hunt, yes, we are referring to broker carrier. Sonny Sharma says, Kyle, the man, the myth, the legend.
Morning, Sonny.
And then, yeah, Sonny, is one of our greatest advocates, and he's on the show this week as well. But he says we love it and how easily it helps vet carriers and cover more freight within our own network. Dylan Turner says vendor management is my passion, and building relationships with the same vendors in multiple markets is my goal. I'd rather have regional markets than national, but I want to grow both companies, quality over quantity, he says. Dude, and because it's like, for me, especially, I'll just use myself as an example. As we're growing out my brokerage right now, it's like, how do I maximize my outreach, right? How do I automate a lot of my day? Because if you're an entrepreneur, business owner, or whatever, it's you start off and your days are stretched thin. And then as you grow, it's like, how do I buy more of my time back, right? How do I increase my output? Because, there's one of those things that, for me, like, I'm bootstrapping, right? Like we bootstrap everything. But, and I'm using this particularly example for inside of my brokerage. We're bootstrapping this. So it's like, we don't have the head count, but it's like, what if I get 14 loads dropped on me from customers and I only have so much time? I got to get them covered if they're all same day. What do I do? It's reutilizing that, where it is just like, seriously, one click of a button and it goes out to everybody who's done those loads for me in the past. And it goes out to other vetted, qualified carriers that are in your system that have very specific lane preferences and everything that match up with that freight. And it's about increasing your output, right? Like, I'm going to be releasing a podcast tomorrow, and you guys will see this. But it's about the amount of missed opportunities that come through a brokerage, right? And through other users from a freight perspective alone. It's just like, why are we not bidding on more freight? And then it's like, are you not bidding on it because of, the hesitancy of, I don't want to deal with the bullshit of going out to the open market. There's a lot of stuff that comes along with it from the rep's perspective. But for us, it's like, let's reward and continue to reward the carriers that are hauling that freight for me. Because again, I want to see them grow. I want them to grow with me. I want that to happen. And then I want to be as automated as possible to letting them know about the business that's coming up this week. So then, when we're talking on the phone, we're actually having a conversation. It's not only business, right? Like that, they need to know how much I care about their operation. That's part of building out a relationship. And this allows you to really do this. And it's not, it's not to take away anybody's jobs. It's not to do anything. It's bringing in another layer of security inside of your operation, but B, it's about rewarding those carriers. Because again, I've been in that situation where I'm like, man, I got this load. I'm like, who's that fucking carrier that did that load for me? And then the load's gone, and shit like that. Like, you got to move now in today's market. You got to be fucking laser quick in your outreach to your carriers and your customers to get this shit locked in.
Yeah, absolutely. And your tools need to be flexible enough to let you do it your way too. So like what we explained during our demos, of course, is our load announcements tools job is to make itself unnecessary for you. Right. right? People look at the number of load announcements you can post for a given subscription plan, and it seems low. But the point is, with that tool, you end up not needing to use it after a while. Once you've posted a few loads on a lane and you found a few good carriers that really have that lane dialed in for you, you don't need to post load announcements on that lane anymore. You've got your short list of people you just call or send an email to, right? And that's where the reutilization comes in, the off-platform reutilization. And when you talk about bootstrapping and working alone and how do you buy your time back, I mean, that problem was the genesis of the entire market of productivity software, not just in freight, but in everything. So when you find the right tools that work with your work style, that integrate well into your workflow, you use them to their maximum capability, but recognize when to stop using them too. When you've got, a classic load, I think one of our customers has a load that goes from somewhere in like Akron, Ohio down to North Texas, like 10 times a week. Well, those load announcements, you would see them coming through the system for a few months and then they disappeared, right? But those loads haven't disappeared. That customer just has a short list of 10, 12 carriers that they just call and they get that load covered every time. They don't need to use the tool anymore. Right. Yeah. So it originally was a time savings and a productivity boost, and now it's become even more of a time savings, and you don't even have to use it anymore. Yeah. So when you're trying to buy your own time back as a bootstrapper, once you get a process dialed in, stop thinking about it. Just repeat the dialed in version of the process that works. Right. And I never go back to the drawing board if you don't have to. Never start over from step one if you don't have to. Right. You always just want to keep moving forward. And I think there wouldn't be very many big companies in the world if everybody always went back to step one and started over again every time they needed to solve a problem.
Yeah. Now, Anthony, can you Anthony Hines says makes it kind of hard for the new guys though. Can you clarify what you mean by that, man? I mean, I'm more than happy to answer any of that. Dylan Turner says yes. Jackknife trailers, yes, but that's gone for most NFO agents and airline ground handlers. Jackknife TV says, man, this is great. And this definitely enforces what I tell other most loads that pay well and are decent. It's very true. I would say this inside of my brokerage, 85% of the freight that we move never makes it out to a load board because like in time, right? Like obviously, I just to clarify, load boards are great to start, right? Because I think it's the most efficient way to find a ton of capacity right away. But after you onboard that carrier or a couple carriers, and you know what, their communication's in line. If you require pictures, they send pictures, BOLs. What if they fit inside of your SOP? You shouldn't go out to the load board after that. You should be reutilizing those carriers because they're already set up, they're already vetted, and you know that they're doing the right thing. So why not continue to work with them, right? I just want to clarify on that. I'm not anti-load board by any means. I'm anti-load board long-term because the majority of the freight that I run, I want to work with the same carriers. It's not going to make it out to the load board. If you've worked with me consistently, you're getting our notifications before I would even consider going out to a load board for any freight that's out there. But again, it's just like, I think that for me is it's more what I'm the most excited about. What we have going is this protects the carriers who are actually hauling the freight, right? Like this props them up to a sense of like, hey, these guys are vetted, these guys are real, and it severely minimizes scammers being able to even get fucking set up for starters, but B is just like, how do we highlight those carriers that are out there who are fighting for their market share? They are fighting to stay in business. They're new. They're trying to establish themselves as quality. And this is like what I'm the most passionate about, considering my dad was a truck driver, is I want a tool. We have a tool now that shows that, hey, that one truck operation who's got fucking everything on the line to provide for their family and do it, they now look exponentially better compared to everybody else in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the software tools, the online platforms like ours and like the other ones that are out there, we create that data. We create that information that we can use to demonstrate that this one truck owner op is actually a legit outfit who does a great job. And it's our job to present that to the brokers that make their way across our platforms. I mean, you talked about not using load boards long term. I'm fully on board with that, because that's an example of what I was talking about a couple minutes ago with going back to step one every time, right? If you just maintain that same process of you go and post your load on the load board and see what you get, and you just keep doing that every time, you never progress beyond that, right? You can't really grow your brokerage. You certainly can't grow your carrier network if you just go out there and take whoever comes, and you're probably only going to use them once, and you have a coin flip chance that they're a scammer anyway. So you find your good carriers, you build your strong network, you build your relationships. You might have to focus on just one or two lanes for a while. That's fine, but that's a great way to do it. In the business world, that's called a niche, right? I'm
sorry, I just love the way that you say that. We call that a niche.
Right? Yeah, I know. I was kind of being facetious there. Of course, everybody watching this knows what a business niche is. But the one commenter there who said it makes things hard for the new guys. That is true. When we look at, for example, the range of MCs that start with 1.5, right? Empirical evidence tells you that 2/3 of those are probably scammers. I mean, there's one address, 3377 California Avenue in Signal Hill, California, that has 766 carriers listed, have that listed as their address.
Can you repeat that address for anybody out there who's watching this or listening to this on the replay? I want you guys to search inside of your system and see if any of these carriers are set up.
3377 California Avenue in Signal Hill, California.
There's how many?
766, according to the April census for the DOT.
Just
right? But that's not the only one. There are actually, the last time I did a sweep for this data, there were over 100 addresses that had 5 or more carriers. There were about 30 that had 10 or more. And then some, that one has over 700. There's one that had about 250. There's 30 North Gould Street is a famous one in Sheridan, Wyoming. So there's really, but this is all stuff that Broker Carrier just does for you. But the way that relates back to new guys having a hard time getting started is that brokers don't have a choice but to assume that anyone who's new, anyone who doesn't have a track record, is probably a scammer, because it's gotten so easy for scammers to get set up with FMCSA or get registered with FMCSA and obtain an authority. The FMCSA does not enforce their own rules about having a principal place of business. They don't enforce their own rules about communication availability. I don't think they even pick up the phone and call people to see if contact information is real.
Yeah,
I mean, we see this all the time. Like on our platform, there'll be a carrier comes to get set up and their business address is in Chicago, Illinois, but the user who's on the computer signing the agreement is in Moldova or Uzbekistan. Like, they think we're not geolocating their user session. I mean that kind of thing is low hanging fruit, but it's something that you wouldn't be able to catch if you're just talking on the phone with somebody who's using a VoIP relay through the actual location where they claim to be, right? So there is no easy answer for how to make things better for brand new carriers. It's going to take a lot of work. It's something that we're actively working on. We're developing a package and a way that new carriers can demonstrate themselves as being legit and sincere, and sort of kind of take on sort of a voluntary probationary status among our customer base. And that there's never going to be a bulletproof solution to this, but we'll find something close and we'll get there. And I'm the son of a truck driver too. I mean, I remember seeing those dial-a-truck boards when I was a little kid. It's what drew me to Freight Tech. And my heart is with the new carriers, the disadvantaged carriers who can't seem to catch a break. And just know there's people who care about you, and we're out here working to figure that out for you. And then,
Leslie, and that's why I wanted to save your comment here is we are actively working to get this, because I understand, again, people took a chance on me early on in business, and I want to be able, and we're actively addressing this. We are actively building this up to where, we can make like a preferred, I don't want to say too much because Kyle's going to be like, shut the fuck up. But we're actively working on this. But I think like a lot of it is currently it's the brokers' qualification process for how they are doing, for how they are active or setting up carriers on that. And I think that from that perspective, it's, maybe you can get a reference letter or something from the brokers you're actively working with to try and be able to work with other brokers in that regard. It's tough. It's tough if you're brand new authority, 30 days in, 60 days in, even 90 days in, because some people require 3 months of 3 months of authority before they get freight. So, but we're actively working on this. But I would recommend trying to get letters of reference and everything out there, and then really building up that rapport with that current broker or whomever to keep you up and running on that. And yeah, Sonny, it's definitely it's definitely insane with that number out there. Mike McBride says it got 20 pages of companies on North Gold Street. Sam Hunt or Steve Hunt says, are you also checking mail to addresses? Yeah.
We check 192 data points at the onboarding interaction with every carrier. And, every single carrier is going to have one thing that might be squiffy, but 99% of the time it's solved with a phone call. Media loves to glom onto the negative things, but still less than 1/3 of 1% of carriers are double brokers.
Yes.
It's a 99.7% legit industry. It's just a hard, complicated one where stress runs high. So that's what leads to the vibe of it right now,
No, for sure. And it's the sensationalization of it. It's easier to say that the house is on fire than it is to actually grab a fucking bucket of water and go put the motherfucker out. Right. It's easier to talk about it because that, like, again, it's like, that's what gets clicks. That's what gets engagement on social media, is when you want to go out there and talk about, some of the shit, and you throw out the surface level stuff, but then there's zero substance behind it. And we've been working fucking very hard to get this up and running to where it's not just this is just for brokers tool. Like, yes, that's who our users are of it, but this is eventually here. And again, I don't want to speak timelines because Kyle, I like to over exaggerate shit, and Kyle's like, shut the fuck up about what you're saying. But what it is, we're building this out as a conglomerate capacity management platform to elevate the carriers out there who are doing the right things time and time again, so they can get more business from all of our users. Excuse me, I almost threw up there. I'm just kidding. But they can get more business from all of our users as a whole. And they can prop up and say, like, hey, these guys are doing the right thing repeatedly on this lane for this carrier. And there's going to be a way we're balancing both out. Straight up, we are going to fucking solve a lot. I think we've already solved a lot of the fraud bullshit that's out there for the most part, or severely minimized it. But this is going to be fucking huge. And I'm not just saying this because I'm a part of it. I believe it, and I know it for a fact. This is going to be fucking huge, not only for the brokers, but the carriers out there, the drivers, the small operations that are out there that are fighting tooth and nail to stay in business, and hearing repeatedly, oh, you haven't been in business long enough, or yada, yada, yada. We are going to be there to help you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're a good, sincere carrier and you care and you do a good job, we will get your name in front of brokers. That's our right. We just started year 4 of the 5-year roadmap to build the universal carrier network. Right, brokers are pretty well taken care of. Fraudsters are pretty well dealt with. I mean, we've got it to a point now. The only way a fraudster can sneak past us without raising any red flags is if they've actually obtained control of your email address and stolen your identity. Right, but that's on your email provider, not on you or on us, right? So,
and that's really hard to fucking pick up because they're
if they have access to the email address where we send the verification code, I mean, what can any software vendor do about that, right? So use a hard password for your email, 2-factor authentication, and don't give it to anybody that you wouldn't give your phone number to. But anyhow, hop down off that soapbox. But yeah, the mission continues to help new carriers develop their books of business too. And platforms like ours are a great way to do it, and people know the score. If you're not paying for a product, you are the product. Carriers know that they're going to get 1 million load announcement emails when you sign up with our platform. But that's where the business comes from. That's where the relationships come from. So come on over. We're going to set up a system pretty soon where you can just create a profile and verify your identity without having to onboard with a broker. And then you'll start getting those announcement emails. You'll start making contacts with brokers, and we'll find you your fit.
Absolutely, we will. And that, you see how Kyle, like that was perfect. It was right at the 30-minute mark too. He planned that. I swear he planned that, you guys. But yeah, at the end of the day, you guys, we're going to continue to fight for everybody. We're going to continue to fight to minimize a lot of the bullshit that we all go through out there in the industry, because I'm committed and Kyle's committed to elevating the right carriers, the right providers in this industry, because I'm about moving this industry forward. I'm not going to sit here and talk about what has happened over the last 20 years and not do anything about it. We're committed to the change. We're committed to making this shit happen. But that's going to be it for today. You guys, tomorrow is all Q&A. All right. If you have any sales or operations related questions for the transportation industry, DM them over to me and I'll answer them live on tomorrow's show. Sonny, I appreciate you being a massive advocate for us. Thank you very much. He says, feel free to call us at Zems and we'll answer any questions you have about broker carrier. Thank you so much, Sonny. But that's going to be it for today, you guys. 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central. We'll be back tomorrow. And as always, if you saw value and you got value in this, subscribe and share the show. If you're watching over on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening to this over on iTunes and Spotify, rank the show out there, you guys. That's how we reach more and more people, because if you guys see value, your network's going to see value in it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.